of which, $2.5 million of which would be set aside and borrowed to repay the creditors for some prior capital improvements that they made in the building during this period of the last several years in which the city didn't give them any money to build it. And so the creditors have made some, mostly small, but they add up, improvements to the building, all of which will be documented. And so the first $2.5 million of that $3 million we could draw on would go to the team to repay them for some prior obligations. And then the last thing I want to add, Margaret may ask me to add some other things, is that the only other kind of nuance to the loan is that to provide some additional protection to the bank, is they did ask the city to enter into a $2 million promissory note with the sports authority, so that if there was an event of default for some reason on the sports authority loan, which I don't envision that happen, but if there was, the city would agree to loan the sports authority $2 million to sort of provide some backup security and collateral for the bank. It's kind of an inducement for them to make a loan. So we've agreed to that. Obviously, the council is going to approve that as well, and that's sort of the other obligation that is part of the overall financing. Other than that, I think it's a fairly routine, revolving line. It's got a 5-year term to it. We anticipate it being extended over time, assuming the revenues come in as we project and all that. And it's, as I said, a very attractive loan in terms of rate and very flexible in terms of it. A good relationship with First Tennessee Bank. They are the city's principal banking agent at this time, and they have expressed extreme interest in doing this transaction. They've been very cooperative and sort of nuancing it, like for the $3 million piece. Clearly didn't have to do that. It's clearly safe thing to say until you get a collective bargaining agreement, you can't borrow anything. But they were willing to kind of work with us to meet sort of our obligations that we felt in this transaction. So it's a very good relationship. We feel good about going forward with that. Margaret, anything on that?
No, I think you covered pretty much everything.
Okay.
I'm happy for you to add a few things, Margaret. We're trying to get Margaret, on TV a little bit more.
Yeah.
I like that. Just really basically what you're going to do today is approve the resolution, and by doing that, you're going to be authorizing the execution at a later date of all of the agreements that are attached to the resolution.
We'll open it up for, do you have anything else? Okay. Let's open it up for questions from the members. Do you have any questions about what Rich has had to say or Margaret's had to say about this while we're here today?
If I may, just so I'm clear, Rich, unless there's a settlement in the NHL, we'll close the loan in mid-October, initially for $3 million. $2.5 million, which we would almost immediately draw to reimburse for improvements already made. And then we're pretty well in a holding pattern until hockey resumes and until more cap room is available under the line of credit to take on other projects.
Essentially correct.
Thanks.
Steve.
This may have been covered, and I apologize
Okay.
for being late. Took me an hour and 15 minutes to get here from Madison this morning.
Did you use your horse and buggy again?
No, actually it was a scooter, but generally it keeps up with the traffic.
It was bad this morning.
Well, one of the things that causes me a little bit of concern is that all of the, as I understand it, all of the draws on this credit card or line of credit that we have will not come back before the sports authority, but will be simply signed off by either the chair or whoever the chair designates, and I guess the finance department. It concerns me a little bit that these expenditures in the millions of dollars will be made without the public really, the benefit of it coming back before the sports authority. And I can't remember the sports authority ever saying no to anything that was asked for. But the benefit is the public gets at least knowledge and notice of large expenditures of their money that's being made. And that's one of the things that concerns me a little bit about the proposal.
Well, I think that, you know, the way we envision this going forward is that the sports authority is going to approve a capital budget for the fiscal year. So it's going to sign off on 8 projects that can be funded that fiscal year out of the loan. And if there's any changes, the creditors would have to come back to the sports authority and say, well, we've had something happen and we need to fund $500,000 for something. That would have to come to the sports authority. But the idea being that they could then structure those and get the work done, you know, on a coordinated basis on their own, but they know they have the approval to do those, whatever the number of projects are. So the sports authority will sign off on any project that money is going to be spent on.
That was my concern, that
That
the only draws that are made on this revolving line of credit will be for projects that have already been publicly approved in a sports authority meeting. Is that right?
That is correct, yes, it would be wrong, obviously, to not do that, and it will be done that way, but we want to also have the most flexibility so that, you know, we don't want to have to hold something up and things of that nature. So if there's an emergency, they'll obviously have to come and get, you know, crisis in the building's dangerous, obviously, we get that work done. But by and large, if it's something that comes up has not been already on that list, approved list, then they would have to come back to the sports board.
Okay. Well, if I may, one other thing, and this may have already been covered, and I apologize again for being late. The effect of the uncertainty right now with regard to the lockout, whether it's going to be a season long or just the preseason or whatever. If memory serves me correctly, and I may be wrong about this, but the last time the arena came anywhere close to breaking even was in the lockout year when we didn't have a season at all. And whatever the various balancing of interest was, the benefit to the arena of having the hockey season canceled was that it opened up a lot of extra dates and it cut the expenses way down. How does the uncertainty of the lockout at this particular point of time affect the source of the payment for these bonds as well as the need for particular projects? Has that been taken into account in all of this?
Yes, because one of the conditions that First Tennessee and SunTrust had was that to close on the loan, they needed a new collective bargaining agreement. And so, in order to authorize the bargain up to the initial amount of $7.5 million, and then ultimately up to $10 million, was conditioned on the collective bargaining agreement. What they've agreed to do is loan up to $3 million initially, without a collective bargaining agreement, no more than that, just $3 million, which would be repaid obviously from the capital improvement fee placed on that non-hockey events that are going to be in the building, already booked, some of which are already booked, others to come. And they're comfortable that that would be enough revenue to service, you know, that $3 million loan. And we can't borrow anything above that until there is a new agreement. And then we go to the $7.5 million for the first year, so an additional $4.5 million. And then it gets all reset in July of next year, or June of next year, based on the prior year's revenues, which will probably be a little below expectations because, you know, we may miss some hockey games or whatever the case may be. But it would get reset, and then every year it gets reset based on the ticket revenue collected the prior year, enough for basically it's 5 times the ticket revenue collected the prior year. So any year in which we collect less than $2 million in revenue, then that's going to affect the maximum amount if we borrow. Any year we collect more than $2 million in revenue, we get to the cap of $10 million.
I think I understand that. Thank you.
I
understand more of it than I did before.
Are there any other questions? Well, you had placed before you this morning a resolution that we would need to effect today and give our approval and then follow up with Margaret as this progresses with the council and the documents become ready for signature. Do I hear a motion that we approve this resolution?
I second.
Okay, further discussion. All in favor of the resolution, say aye. Aye. Opposed? And the resolution is approved.
One abstention.
Yeah, okay, right. Nancy extension. Let me just say, we appreciate, Rich, how you explained it to us, and appreciate getting these documents ahead of time. Monica got them out to us this time, and we had them, and we'll move to the next item on the agenda
We
then.
don't promise to always do as well, but we try.
Yeah, good. Thank you very much. The Predators update, Sean.
What I'd like to do is give a brief update, or as brief as I can be, which is always very brief. And then I'd like to introduce Adam Stover, who's a populist, used to be HOK, who's the design firm on this building originally, to go through how we see the building, how we look at it, how we will look at it. And with this resolution being passed, now we have to start planning on how to use this money properly. And we're big believers in renovations every year, as opposed to large projects every few years. And I think Adam can walk us through the visioning of what we did. So first, it's been about 2 years that I've been saying before you, with the exception of the first meeting when you all cut my head off and said how irresponsible we were, and you were right. I think I bragged every other meeting that we've had.
Yeah.
So we'll start off that way, because it's tradition. We should all be proud of where we're sitting right now. As much as last year wasn't the year that we wanted or expected from a touring standpoint, it was still a great year, one of the best years we've ever had from the number of visitors that came through the building, but it was a little bit down from where we hoped. This fiscal year, though, we are in the midst of building what's going to be the busiest event year this building's ever had. It's just absolutely incredible. Next week, we're going to receive the venue of the year from the Academy of Country Music. I think it's our second or third? Our next year's the third. Second straight award. And that's a nice award, because unlike a lot of the other ones that honestly are publication driven, and the more ads you buy, the more awards you win, this is voted on by agents, managers, and the performers themselves. So it's the one that they like coming to the best, the one that gives them the best grosses, easy in, easy out. And it's those awards that really allow you to start plugging into new events. So congratulations to all of you, but really our staff as well. We threw an article on the table for everyone to read. ESPN magazine just ranked us as the 14th best organization in all of sports, which is a real nice honor. When they first did this 5 years ago or so, 6 years ago, the first year of the magazine, we were in the 50 to 75 range or around there. So this is a real nice mention. Again, you hate to brag too much about things, but it's nice to see that people are taking notice to what we're building here. And we know we have something special in Middle Tennessee, but it's also nice to see the sports experts from around North America say that we're doing something right. So again, you should be proud of this, because this was really set in motion when we did the first level of incentives in 2007. We're in the middle of a great month. September is normally not the busiest month of the year. Normally you're getting ready for hockey and the building's just getting cold. But we've already hosted KISS, Motley Crue, 2 pro bull riding shows, Kelly Clarkson, we got Carrie Fisher, some people call her Carrie Underwood, Carrie Fisher this Sunday as well. So really a great month for events. From a foundation standpoint, we just hosted Petey's Party, which is the Red Peterson Foundation, Fighting Parkinson's. We combined that with our own foundation to put on a golf tournament, 2 flights of a tournament, and then a dinner in the building. We had 1,100 people for the dinner. 2 years ago, the combined efforts raised about $120,000. Last year was about $160,000, $180,000. This year, I think we owe $200,000, which goes directly to charities in this community, and then about half of it goes directly to Vanderbilt and to continue the Parkinson's research. We also just donated $150,000 to Children's Hospital at Vanderbilt. So a lot of good things are happening. And again, all this is built off of our fans and their support and the passion our partners have. We just completed in partnership with the school district. We built a Kaboom playground over at Bellshire Design Elementary School, which we finished that last week, which was the end of what we call Project 6K. Last year we introduced and committed that we would donate 6,000 hours of community service as an organization to the community. Pretty bold goal. Someone said that's crazy, you can't do it, we won't do more than 1,000. And I'm not proud to say we fell short. We fell short by about 300 hours in total. But we ended the year with this Kaboom project, which was unreal. We had season ticket holders out there with us. We had all of our employees out there, some partners. It was just a lot of fun, and I think this year we're going to be able to hit that goal of 6,000. So again, you should be proud of that, because the employees in your building that are going out in the community making a difference every day. I guess I have to talk about the CBA because it's been talked about a few times. There's an article just written about it. I can't say a lot about our collective bargaining agreement, where we are right now. Last week, it was declared that we'd have a lockout when the deal expired. It's not where we want to be. We have a lot of good things going on, obviously, but it is where we find ourselves. The preseason, for us anyway, was just canceled. All preseason games through September 30th have been canceled or postponed. We have 1 or 2 on the road starting October 1st or beyond. Our goal is very simple. It's the same goal the players have, the same goal the league has, the same goal our fans have, the same goal that you all have, and that's to get on the ice as soon as possible. We won't get on the ice until a new deal is signed, though, obviously. And the goals of the new deal are pretty simple, to make sure that this game can continue to grow in a responsible, sustained manner. And that's what the goal is. Beyond that, I can't talk too much about it. My personal views, if I share them, Jeff, how much is the fine?
$1 million.
$1 million. It's a personal fine. So unless you want a new guy standing in front of you, and you may, I can't comment too much. But I will say, we remember what happened in 04 and 05 when we lost the full season. And while some will say that was the best financial year, I'll argue it was probably the worst possible year because the way the team and the building addressed the lockout and things that they did then set a really bad path in motion for the next several years that honestly resulted in this team almost leaving Middle Tennessee. We obviously all remember that. Back then the team, and a lot of teams across the NHL, with the exception of a handful of them, laid off a lot of staff. They basically shut operations down on every front. And it was the worst thing you could possibly do. You need to continue selling, you need to continue building relationships, improving upon your business, because we are going to sign a new CBA. And whether that takes another week, or another month, or another 2 months, or whatever it may be, we're going to sign a new CBA, and you better make sure your employees are still here working and concentrating on what we're supposed to do. We were very fortunate because about 2 years ago, as you recall, we took all of our operations and combined them into one. The reason we did that was simple and selfish. We wanted to sell more hockey tickets, we wanted to sell more concert tickets. We wanted the industry to realize that we could do any show that any other city's doing, and we could compete with Chicago and LA and New York. People laughed when I said it, but you know what? We're competing with Chicago and LA and New York right now because we combine our sales staffs, because we combine our operations staff, because we combine our marketing staff. And that's what we're going to do throughout this lockout. We announced to our staff in June that we were not going to lay anyone off. There would be no furloughs, there would be no pay cuts, there would be no reduced work week. What we announced is we're probably going to get a lot more work. There's going to be different type of work for a few people. During the lockout, there are going to be some people that are a little bit down in their normal routine. They're going to be tasked and charged with doing some different things. The beneficiary of that is going to be our events, our other events that we do. Already right now, even though we combined the sales staff 2 years ago, this is the first year that we're seeing real traction in group sales, for example. We have 20 or 30 sales and marketing executives focusing on every event that we do. And the Disney on Ice run that we're about to start, our group sales are up 5 times over last year because we're using everybody. PBR, Professional Bull Riders, we just did 2 of those. Our sales are up 4 times on the group sales standpoint. Those are sales that we're manufacturing, and those things are noticed. The nice part about this is when the lockout is done and we sign a new CBA, the things that we're really accelerating right now will pay dividends for the next 5, 10, 25 years, whatever it may be. And we're going to come out of this lockout stronger as an organization than we're going into it as. And that's an important thing to remember. Steve, you mentioned that in 04, 05, it was the best year the building ever had because the new events were booked. I will challenge on that. And I don't think one new event was booked outside of perhaps a minor league hockey game or a college game, things that you could put together at the last minute. Unfortunately, if right now it was announced that we were going to cancel the whole season, if today someone said we're canceling the whole season, the next hockey game is going to be October 1st of 2013, I don't know if we book another major event. When you look at some of the shows that we have on the books right now, Aerosmith, for example, that we just announced, the first ever play in our building, Aerosmith is coming. We started working on that about 9 months ago. The Lady Gaga concert, the Pink concert that we just announced for March. Again, some major announcements we did this week on shows that have never played here before. We started working on those shows about 10 months ago. The biggest demand for a show that we have is One Direction. It's the newest boy band. Every teenage girl in the world wants to go to it. That is next June. That we worked on about 19 months before it. So the major shows, the shortest window you're going to look at working on probably on the very, very low end, 4 months. The average is about 6 or 7 months. There's 1 or 2 shows out there that you can work on 2 months out, and there's one major artist that will drop, make a phone call, and you'll do the show 4 weeks later. But we haven't done that show in this building in 2007, so 5 years. And you hope he comes, but again, that has nothing to do with the lockout if that would occur. With that said,
I didn't say it was the best year ever. I said it was the last time we came close to breaking even.
and
That doesn't necessarily mean that
Right.
that's the best for the arena. But from a pure financial standpoint, I think that was the last time that the arena broke even or came close to breaking even.
But-
That doesn't necessarily translate. Obviously, if that meant that was the best year ever, then we ought not to have hockey at all. But it wasn't the best year ever. It was just the last time that we came close to breaking even.
And again, I'll explain why. When the lockout happened, there was a Friday afternoon, and I wasn't here, but it's somewhat legendary throughout our league and in our own building. On a Friday at 4 o'clock, it was decided to lay off, I don't know, percentage-wise in the building, 75% of the staff or so. That might be a little bit high. And sure, you save some labor, but what did it cost you? It made us about the 30th ranked building in the country. It almost caused the team to leave, so I'm excited and I'm proud about what we're doing, you know, whether this lockout lasts a week or a month or 2 months, because what we're doing is sacrificing, and you know the way our new deal works, whether we make $1 or lose $1, it's all on the team. You know, the loss is there. So it's a big investment that we're making to make sure that we come out of this as a better organization.
Actually, under the new agreement, we pay the loss cap expense whether it is actually incurred or not. In other words, if there are zero expenses, we still pay the Predators $4-point-some-odd million as that expense loss cap, even if that cap is not met, right?
And you're right, and that's why if you're a short-term view of this lockout, we would say let's lay everyone off so we can get below that cap and enjoy the profit pickup. We're doing just the opposite. We're taking employees, we're not going to enjoy any rent from the Predators, which is scheduled to be $1 million this year or so. We're saying, no, let's still use everybody. Let's make sure we're not making the CBA as it can be for our employees. When Coach walked in, it was the first thing he said to me, right? This is awful. What are we doing for our staff? How are we going to keep people working? Well, we're going to keep them working. It's our job to take the shows that we have and use that staff and sell that extra 500 tickets, 1,000 tickets, and that's what we're going to do. So, and you know, the other tenets of the new deal, if you remember, our management fee got cut in half, the incentives got increased. It really puts a lot of pressure on us to hit those incentives, which I read in the paper that someone mentioned that perhaps will be a full year loss. If there was, we won't hit those incentives, you know, but it's bad for everybody if that were to occur. We still anticipate a fairly short lockout, and that's what we're planning on. Last night we met with about 200 of our season ticket holders, our ambassadors, and they said, well, how'd you plan for this? Well, we are responsible. We say we didn't plan for it, but we plan for business as usual, because that's the best way to plan for the lockout. And we spent 10% of our time putting together contingency plans. Most of them revolve around how to build those relationships and keep those relationships. And we rolled out a plan for our season ticket holders in advance of any lost games to say, this is what we're going to do for you, for being so loyal to us. And it's the most aggressive plan in our league for this lockout. It's the most aggressive plan that any NBA team put together last year during their lockout, or any NFL team put together for their lockout. And we think we should do that because we're on such a nice path right now. Let's not do anything to interrupt it beyond what is currently happening. So again, we're pretty, I don't want to say excited where we are, but we are proud of the ownership group that we have to give us the latitude to say, let's do what's right for our staff. It also translates to let's do what's right for our business, which is nice when what doing right translates to doing the smart business thing as well. So it's funny, the economic impact of the building that you asked us to do the study on last year that we did, and we rolled it out in March, and we had to beg reporters to cover it, look at it, and everyone said, well, you guys did the report. How can we trust it's $400 million? This week, I've seen more reporters say, oh my God, it's $400 million economic impact. What are we going to do without hockey? And I thought, no one's mentioned anymore that we paid for the study. No one has mentioned the fact that we set the standards for the study. So JR, if you're listening, you can mention that we paid for the study stuff. So, but again, we take it seriously, we take the responsibility on, and our job is to try to manufacture other events or grow other events. Our plan is to use the building as much as we can throughout this lockout, but I want people to look at this, properly. If we lose a game, we will not book a new event for every lost game that we have. What we will do is we'll manufacture a lot of other things. We'll have movie nights, we'll have open skates. We'll go out and we'll book a few concerts, but they're not going to be the shows that I normally get up here and brag about. They're going to be shows that we're really excited to have, but they'll be in that 4,000 to 7,000 range. Maybe we have some other hockey being played in the building as well. Those are our goals. But I'd like to answer any questions that you have that I can answer, because it's an important thing for all of us to face. And unfortunately, there's going to be probably more negative news before there's good news, just the way things were reported on. But again, I'm pretty proud of where we are as an organization, how we're approaching this, and I think you should be, as well. So if you have any questions about the negotiations, I can't answer those. I don't even know that much about it. But anything that we're doing or not doing, or any suggestions you have, we'd love to hear them.
I'm curious if the season gets canceled, and I apologize for always looking for the worst case scenario, but sometimes somebody needs to, I guess. Would there be savings from the standpoint that, for example, you don't have to make ice or maintain ice if you're not going to, or would you continue to make the ice and keep the playing field, or keep the ice in usable condition throughout the season? Am I making my question clear? I may not be.
No.
All right. One of the expenses of playing hockey is that you have to maintain ice on the floor, and that costs money. If you're not going to have hockey, then that's an expense that might not be there. And my question is, are your plans, if the season gets canceled, to maintain the ice, or to make that savings in the expense and not have to make the ice as you would in the summertime, for example?
We put the ice in this year in August 1st. And a lot of other times the ice went in right before training camp, literally. 2 or 3 days before the paint, it's almost fresh still when the players first step on it. What you have is a bad sheet of ice. I mean, you really do. The coach hates us. Everyone's angry about it. But more importantly, as we try to grow ice, and we try to grow skating, and we try to grow hockey, we need to provide more ice. So we put it in early. And I think every high school team has played on this 4 or 5 times already. Might be a little bit high, 2 or 3 times. Every rec league, kids are playing beer leagues. We just have everyone using it a little bit more. We're not forecasting a full season loss. If that were to be the case, it wouldn't be announced today or tomorrow or in December or in January. I think when it happened last time, I think the announcement was done, Jeff, February 1st or so?
End of January.
End of January. Some teams took their ice out. We probably leave our ice in. And if that came about again, which I don't believe it will, but if it came about again, maybe look at it. The difference is when you have the ice covered with our thermal floor, it really changes, what burden that puts on the pressures of the building. But we probably end up using our ice a lot more just to keep it alive and keep it fresh. And again, that's the difference. This approach versus the approach of 8 years ago. We got to keep hockey alive and vibrant. You can't tell by a lot of what you're all wearing today, but today's Preds Pride Day. You want people to wear gold today. You want you to go out and wear logos. Let's have some fun with it. That's why the Kaboom bill last week was so important. We had a couple of players with us. We want people to continue to focus on the good part about what we do, not the bad part. So the more people we get out skating, the better it is.
Any other questions? Emmett?
Does this roll-up sheet that you have, does this mean that the team is ranked 14 of 15, or is this just the way that you roll?
It's 14 of 122 teams.
Okay, so 15 was just for reference?
I didn't put it together. If I put it together, all 122 would have been on there.
Okay.
And Jerry likes to save paper, I think. What's nice about the sheet is we finished, I think, 4th in the NHL, and Memphis finished 4th in the NBA. And it's funny, both of our franchises are really getting a better footing in their cities right now, and it's being recognized everywhere.
And the other part was under AFF, the affordability, price of the tickets, parking, concessions. Who's number one? I don't see a number one on there. I see it on every other.
I defer to Jerry. I know we're in the top handful always. You know, in the NHL, I think we have the second lowest average ticket price. We're down in the bottom three anyway. I think I'm looking at Jerry. This is across all sports though, so I assume some baseball teams are a little bit lower on average ticket price.
All sports.
This is all sports, that's correct.
All right, thanks.
What I'd like to do is briefly introduce
Okay.
Adam Stover and have him just kind of go through what we've been looking at for the past year when he first asked us to look at what should we be doing with the building, and then more importantly, what happens in a 15-year-old building. And this is what we're going to continue to base what we bring before you to say, hey, I think we should do this. This is where we are and visioning standpoint. So, again,
Adam?
thank you very much. Thanks, Adam. Thanks, Sean.
I'm actually going to sit over here and run the computer. That way you guys can look at the screen and not my pretty face. The screen is the important part of it. This turned on.
He's a great architect. He doesn't do well with IT.
He told me all I had to do was wiggle the mouse.
There.
Can you move over that slides? There you go. Perfect. Thank you. Yeah, I want to thank Sean for letting me be here today. And there's about, just to scare you, there's about 65 slides in here. I promise I'll go very quickly. But, you know, I want to keep this informal. So if I roll past the slide and someone, you know, wants me to go back, please holler and I'll do so. What I wanted to do is just kind of, we've started through the guidance of Sean and the team and the organization, looking at big picture as a whole, and where do we go? What can we do, as Sean said, on an annual basis to continue to grow what's a 15-year-old building to, you know, one of the best or the best in the country from a variety of standpoints for the next 15 to 20 years. You know, we already know that, you know, we're hosting the biggest shows in the music industry. We're home to one of NHL's hottest teams right now, and we're one of the busiest venues in North America, not to mention probably the best convertible arena in the country. So we should be very proud of that. So, you know, what we have to do is create a portal for those things. You know, we need to make sure that we're telling our story through a series of moments and engagements, which starts with connecting our stories, connecting the community, and then, most importantly, connecting the people. And, you know, it's stepping back and looking at how do we engage that community, you know, well beyond the boundaries of the building. You know, we talk about the building, but it's really more than that. It's our fans and patrons' journey to Nashville. It's what they're doing when they're visiting Nashville. It's exploring the staples, you know, Fifth Avenue, the Broadway experience. It's how do we capture all of that is, you know, city, state, and country, and bring that into the arena experience. And then, you know, it's understanding the demographics. It's, you know, we need to look at the baby boomers, Generation X, and Millennium generation to make sure, you know, we're truly providing an experience that's memorable for everyone here. And so I won't go into these in detail, but we've just started to look at, you know, what are those experiences for the baby boomers? You know, what's important to them? How do we keep them engaged when they're here in the facility? How do we do the same for Generation X and then for the millennial generation? Recent improvements, you know, I just wanted to hit, I think one of the things that was exciting was, you know, in 2011 was the Upper Concourse Fan Zone. You know, one of the things I noticed walking a couple years ago was that, you know, just how fans utilize the building on the 300 or Upper Concourse level. And I thought it was really impactful that was one of the first, you know, big things that was done, was taking care of those Upper Concourse fans, creating a immediate connection to the ice and to the arena experience through that simple opening. That's become really impactful. So how, what's the sense of discovery? How do we re-energize and continue to keep the energy that's currently in the facility? What we've done is started to step back, and we like to start with a visioning session. And we came down about a year ago, met with a bunch of staff, and over a couple days, and we started looking at what makes this place special. Let's look at the city, understanding the team, the region, the state as a whole. Starting to understand how people describe their brand. What makes the store unique? What makes it passionate? What are the key marketing strategies in place today? And then what are the ideals and goals and visions for the future? And then the big question is, what do you see as the current underutilized areas within the building? And some of these are ones that we experience, but most of these are coming from the staff as a whole. People that are living in this building every day, understanding from them what they see, understanding from people on the streets. When they come to the experience, why do they come 15 minutes before the game or a show versus an hour and a half? If we can understand those things, then we can make sure we're providing the best possible experience here at the arena. I call this the dot bowling exploration, but it's always fun, and as we move forward, we'll do this many times, and hopefully with everyone in this room. But it's just pinning up walls of imagery and of concepts and notions and experiences, and seeing what people are passionate about, and what it really activates them and inspires them. And so that gives us a good sense of the feeling of place and city, and really where we head going in the future. Again, I'll keep moving, but it's looking at brand, and the design approach. Let's make sure that we're telling a strong thematic story, and starting with the arena, and as I said earlier, kind of spreading, looking at the music scene, Tennessee scene, the entertainment, the team, and then Nashville as a city. And it's always important just to put together these storyboards, just to start, looking at sequencing, colors, really what triggers that emotion in these different genres or areas of focus. So one of the things that we've begun to do, and I tried to see how many little bubbles I could get on one plan. I could probably keep going, but it's really about stepping back and taking each level by level and looking at how the space is used today, and really no direction is the wrong direction at this point, and it's really about challenging the arena, the team on how these spaces, and the city on how these spaces are being used, and saying, okay, stepping back, what if we did this here? Or what if we moved this around and created a club restaurant experience in some of these zones that could be 365 days a year? I mean, I think one of the exciting things for me is with the addition of what's a beautiful convention center, is now there's a new thoroughfare that we didn't have before. And how do we capture those people that are making the walk along Fifth Avenue now? How do we capture those people? Can we create some experiences so that one of the things we always hear is that we just want to make sure that when you are experiencing Broadway, that Broadway doesn't stop at Fifth, that Broadway stops at the ice. I mean, the ice is captivating, but everything around there is an extension of Nashville and Fifth Avenue. We just want to make sure that we're able to do that. So a lot of that is a lot of this is kind of breaking that down and seeing what all those trigger points are and how we can bring those to life, or add elements to bring those to life. And then, everything is, we've looked at kind of every element, including carpet. One of the big things on here is, what can we do with the flooring surfaces to bring those elements to life? We want to make sure that every element in the building is telling some sort of a memorable story. It's something, impactful that's going to cause somebody to come back, or want somebody to come back, time and time again. We've started to kind of look at and step back and look at the branding style approach. How can we influence some of the styles that we see throughout Nashville and pull those into the building? So these are just some quick, kind of studies that we've begun to look at and share with the team and the organization. You'll see obviously a very strong tie to Hatch show print, but we thought that flair and that kind of energy, you see that everywhere in the city, was important to try to pull into the venue. We've started to look at what is that first exciting impression. This one is studying that Broadway entry experience, and so what can we do to really create a dynamic, energetic moment? That first moment of engagement. And so we looked at, what if, and because at this point it's all a lot of what ifs, which is really exciting, but what if we brought the exterior of the building to life and that becomes this crowded, plaza, so that when there's a concert going on or a game going on outside or inside, it's going on outside as well. Think of the memorable experience and the impact that can have. What can we do to, this is just starting to study that first experience when you walk in the door. What's that first impression? We want to make sure that fans are exploring the destinations around on their way to the ice rather than, beelining straight for it. We began to look at the main concourse destinations. One thing that we've kind of looked at is, let's create these lounges, high energy, sports bar atmospheres, high energy, kind of music lounges. Because one of the things we're finding is that a lot of people kind of like to hang out on Broadway before an event so that they can take in some of the music scene. Well, why don't, we're saying, let's bring the music scene inside. There's a huge opportunity there. Studying concession branding, there's such a flair and a unique, originality of some of the restaurants and eating, opportunities in Nashville and the surrounding area. So how can we bring in some of those, to create those unique experiences for the fan that's coming in just for a night? We want to make sure they're truly experiencing Nashville, not just the game or the concert. So when they come in, when they're inside the building, they're able to explore what they're not able to outside just because of time. We've started to look at, visual enhancements and things as simple as trash cans. How do we take, an element and, create an impactful moment of engagement with it? And we took a look at the Demond Room or the south entrance, which really is going to be a really captivating portal now that with the convention center, it's hugely important in the parking garage over there. It's going to get so much more foot traffic. It's as simple as, taking what's existing today and adding layers of engagement, and materiality to it to really bring it to life. And this study was, creating, just a fabric kind of structure that would allow, the organization the opportunity to change imagery and, excitement, anytime they wanted to in seconds. It's looking, we started to look at branding at all levels, just on a, 1,000 foot perspective. And what can we do to make sure that when you're walking along the concourses, there's always a moment of engagement or experience being had. Whether that's larger than life images, and paying homage to the great performers that have been in this building. The upper concourse experience, and those look we may look at those as, some would argue those are passionate hockey fans. I think every fan in this building is a passionate hockey fan. I've had the privilege of spending a lot of time here and being in, being at several games, and no matter where you sit, it's exciting to be here. But, what if we pick the upper concourse and start to, that we treat that as really the homage to, what we've created with the Predators and tell really a story there of engagement. So, for me, and I think the challenge we have, or we all have, is now, is taking that tradition and passion that's Bridgestone and, shaping it into an experience, belonging to the people of Nashville and the community for generations to come, which is really exciting for all of us. So, we'll get there through innovative design thinking. We'll be maximizing the visitor experience, which in turn is going to lead to long-term revenue.
Anybody have a comment or question of Adam?
Just want to add one thing what Adam's doing. A lot of people say, well, why are you doing this or this? We have a very simple thing. We want to hit 5 constituents with every renovation we do. Our players, our performers, our employees, our partners, and our fans. Each thing we do, it has to touch one of those. Some will touch 2, some will touch all 5. And when you look at some of the things that we've just done this past year or 2 years, it was just announced that we're doing the Grammy Selection Award Show. That wouldn't have happened if we didn't alter our hospitality space. We're in deep conversations now with SEC to see what else we can do. They really like what we've added to the building. A fan's own experience changes what their fans experience, if you will. Our breakout space, our suites, a training room, if you will, that we could use for the women's Final Four, that we'd use for the team, that we'd use, honestly, just for a top performer to have their own workout room. It's those things that really change it. And then this is really the path that we follow. It's the innovation through design, the maximize visitor experience. And you get a visitor in this, our players, our performers, our fans, and our employees. So this is really the path that we're going down. It's really an exciting time. Thank Rich and everyone at Metro that worked so hard to make the funds available for all the things that you've approved over the years that now we can actually start acting upon and modifying through some new technology. So thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Sean. Steve?
I really like the idea of the video on the plaza. I think that, I don't know how expensive we're talking about. I know the new video boards over at the stadium are relatively expensive, but I really like that. I'm a little concerned about traffic safety.
Well,
So if you've got
last year during the playoffs and during the CMT awards, if you remember, we shut Broadway, shut Fifth Avenue, and for the playoff games, we had, I don't know how big the screen was, but out of Broadway, 20 by 30 or so, and you ended up with about 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 people on Broadway that was closed. Every bar, restaurant, hockey talk, Fifth Avenue was just jammed. The CMT producer saw that and said, we're doing an outside element too. And we did a stage, we did live concerts out there that was broadcast across the globe. So it's pretty neat, but part of it is working with the city's plan on what Fifth Avenue is going to become. Should Fifth Avenue be open during an event for us or for the convention center? Should Broadway be open, to vehicular traffic at a certain time? I don't know, but these are things that we're looking at. As the city evolves, we got to make sure we evolve, because that outdoor experience is pretty neat.
I think that's very exciting.
Yeah, it really is. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That concludes our agenda. I would mention this morning that you can see the absence of Emmett. He's recovering at home from surgery. He hopes to be back within the next few weeks. If you need anything or have any thing to talk about, don't hesitate to call Monica. Monica's very well informed, and she's been with us a long time, and she does a good job, so she's there for our use as we need her during this interim when Emmett is not there. So, Monica, we appreciate you, appreciate what you're doing.
Good job.
Meeting's adjourned.
Amen.